Welcome to the official ArtPrize podcast, a limited series going behind the scenes of Grand Rapids' premier art competition. I'm your host, Steve Kelso. I'm a former ArtPrize reporter for Wood TV8, a former ArtPrize artist, and the owner of Kelso Communications, a proud ArtPrize sponsor. In this series, I'm talking with the artists, the organizers, and the decision makers shaping ArtPrize 16. Welcome, everybody. It is another episode of the official ArtPrize podcast. Joining me today, Stephen Halko. He is Dean of Kendall College of Art and Design. Welcome. Thank you very much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
We were talking about the importance of ArtPrize to KCAD. Tell me about that.
Kendall College of Art and Design has been in Grand Rapids, been a Grand Rapids institution for 98 years, almost 100 years. So as the premier institution educating artists and designers, we have a legacy of filling that role. And so an event like ArtPrize, something that's been happening now the 16th year, that brings such awareness to the arts and creative culture of this community. It's a really wonderful thing for the city, and so by extension, a wonderful thing for us. And gives me a lot of pride and a lot of pleasure to say that a lot of our alums, a lot of our current students, a lot of our faculty participate in ArtPrize. So it helps bring visibility to what they're doing, what we do. And then also the exhibitions that we have, which we put a lot of effort into, a lot of thoughtful curation about what we want to present, what we want to share with the public. And I think that, if you come to ArtPrize, you walk around the city, you will see all of the venues doing that in some way or another. And I think, Kendall has been such an important part of the city. It's really a wonderful thing to be a part of that conversation.
Your history with ArtPrize runs the history of ArtPrize, doesn't it? You got here the same year it all began.
Indeed, I did. I'm not a native Grand Rapidian, but I got here as soon as I could. So
that's my line. I tell people that all the time.
There you go. No. Not from here, but I moved here in 2009, actually August of 2009, because I started as a professor in the drawing program at Kendall College of Art and Design. And preparing for classes to start that fall. And, there was a buzz around town about this thing called ArtPrize. And at the time, nobody knew what it was. And, we were just talking, I think 16 years later, there's still a little question about what it is.
Yeah.
Which I think is a fantastic thing. But people were excited. And that I knew in and of itself, full stop, people are excited about art. That's all I need to hear. I was excited to be here. And so I think that energy, that excitement around it in the city was a fantastic thing.
I was talking with someone else for this podcast, and we were talking about the value that art has on one's head. And the person I was talking with was an academic, and he really thinks that it's important for people to consider things from all sides. Tell me about the societal impact or the mental impact that art can have on individuals.
Sure. Well,
it makes us better.
It does. In fact, I would say it's not only something that makes us better, it's one of the best parts of who we are. It's an intrinsic part of who we are as humans. I think there's a cultural thing, but there's also something very specific related to place, which is really interesting in the context of talking about ArtPrize. If you want to know something about any culture, any group of people, whether it's Grand Rapidians in 2026, or whether we're talking about, the Italians in the Quattrocento, whether we're talking about, Japanese culture.
Drawings on caves.
Exactly. If you want to know what a people valued, what they thought about, what they think about, what they cared about, what their daily life was like, what their aspirations were, just look at their artwork. It's all there. And so it's a bit of a historical document, but it's also an ongoing conversation in real time. Artists, members of the community, they're having conversations back and forth, sharing ideas, having critical dialogue about those ideas. To say that it's something that is, important. I mean, I think that it's just intrinsic in who we are. It's something that we do. And I don't know if we could ever not do it. I think that it's that ingrained in who we are. And especially something like ArtPrize, which really expands that concept, the question of what is art. There are artists who are questioning that all the time. So you mentioned earlier, music. Music is definitely an expression of art. You've got the 3D, the 2D. You've got visual expressions. You've got conceptual art. Even you've got all these different things. And so each one of those things is also a facet of who we are as humans. So it's a mode of expression, really.
And I find that it can make us ponder things about maybe the very nature of our existence, sometimes looking at the right piece of art. And it does let your head do things that maybe is helping rewire you and make you a more complete and whole person.
Sure, I like that. Let's go with that. I like that a lot. No, absolutely, because I think ultimately at the end of the day, what really good art does, if it has a purpose, if it does anything, I think one of the things that it does is it makes you notice things. It makes you notice something that you might not have noticed otherwise, or think about something you might not have thought about otherwise. And so much of, especially, I don't know if every generation has said this, but I think especially, now, I think so much of our experience is things coming at us, media coming at us, screens everywhere, showing us things, telling us things, to be able to take a minute, to slow down for a minute, to be able to look at something. And when you come to ArtPrize, and there's so many artists, so many different forms of artwork, you might not know what exactly is going to catch your attention, what's going to draw you in, something you might not have expected, something you never would have thought would catch your eye. But when it does, it kind of slows you down, and it makes you remember that you are a person in a time, in a place, with the ability to think about your own existence. And I mean, what's more magical than that?
I think that hits on one of the things that I really loved about ArtPrize from the get-go. Art can be a little intimidating to someone. If I'm going to go to the Art Institute of Chicago, or, if it may be a little stuffy or unapproachable for me. But when we did this contest and told people that your vote matters, that empowered people.
Sure. And, it's always been that way, I would say, in terms of, looking at art. Certainly, there are cultural institutions. There are, there's a whole paradigm of thought and language around art, but there are around other disciplines as well. I mean, I go to my mechanic, he's talking about things under the hood that I can't understand at all. I don't know what he's talking about, but hopefully he understands what he's talking about because he's been educated in, how engines work and these sorts of things. And so he's able to have a discussion on another level, a different level. Now, that said, I still very much value and appreciate my car. I mean, right. I need it, right?
And my mechanic.
And my mechanic, of course, right? So, I mean, this whole thing, I hear what you're saying, absolutely. And there are things that I think part of it is this word value. We give value to things. And as humans, we do that. And our value systems change and evolve over time. So as a culture, when we say we value this thing, we tend to separate it out, put it in fancy halls and surrounded with marble and all of these sorts of things, right? But it's important, I think it's always important to remember that while the artwork, these artifacts of time and place may be in these places, if you think about it, the artists weren't. The artists were toiling away in their studios, oftentimes unnoticed, not really, sometimes, certainly some artists were definitely involved in cultural conversations of the day, but so much of the art that we value and that we think about really just came from an internal place. And it came from the heart, it came from the mind. And I like to think that what comes from the heart goes to the heart. So that's all you need. If you got the ability to look at artwork and experience the artwork, let it speak to you on whatever level that is.
One of the things I also really value about ArtPrize is you can go to the Louvre, but you're not going to talk to Da Vinci. Well, the fact that he's not here to talk to you is one thing.
Sure. Well, if you did, I'd question you.
You're right. But I can walk around ArtPrize and I can talk to the artist and I can start to get an idea of intentionality, what he meant, what this thing's supposed to do. Some of them say it's all up to you to figure it out, but you get to have that conversation.
Of course. And that's such an important part of ArtPrize, but also, that dialogue with artists and with the artwork itself. I know as an artist myself, whatever I'll say is whatever I think about my own artwork, produce whatever it is that I make. Personally, I don't always know what something means, and certainly I can say, even if I did think I had an idea around what something meant, I go back years later and look at it and go, maybe it meant something different. Now with the eyes of 10 years later, I have, a different perspective on what I thought about 10 years ago or something like that. So, those, even within artists, those are ongoing dialogues about intentionality and about what things mean. And so I think for, the artists, when they get a chance to show their work to the public and hear what the public has to say about it, what the public thinks, I think that's a really valuable experience for the artists, not just for the public, but the artists get to be a really, an intriguing conversation.
So as an artist, maybe you're telling me what it's about.
Well, and vice versa, yeah. Right. I mean, and I will say this, I personally believe, and I don't know that every other artist believes this or not, but once I'm done, once I finish whatever I've made and I take it out of my studio and I put it somewhere public, whatever I think it meant doesn't matter anymore, right? It's not mine anymore. It's now in the public sphere. So whatever the public thinks, whatever you think as an individual, that's what it means. That's what it means to you. What right do I have? What authority do I have to take anything away from you, right? I can't, and I don't want to. In fact, I think that's one of the things that's so exciting about making work and viewing artwork and talking to artists is that you get to have this dialogue back and forth. And really what you're doing is talking about your shared humanity. You're talking about those things that, you might tell me a story. Well, this reminds me of this time when I was a kid and this thing happened. And, how valuable is that to you? Now, I didn't have that experience, but still, we're talking about life. And that's a really great thing.
I think Bob Dylan was famous for saying something like, it's really none of my business what you think of my songs. Once I'm done with them, you tell me what they mean.
Sure, yeah, of course, yeah.
So that's kind of
the death of the author. Yep, once the author puts it out there, it's up to everybody else.
There is a certain bravado that is involved with anyone doing their art and then coming forward and saying, what do you think?
Sure. Bravado is an interesting word because there is a certain amount of confidence you have to think that you can make anything, right? I mean, I made eggs this morning for breakfast, right?
Right.
So many things can go wrong with that. I had to oftentimes do, right?
In my kitchen.
Sure. But, I had to have some kind of confidence that I was going to be able to make something that I would then be able to eat, right? So there's this confidence there, but then there's also always this constant kind of variable of whatever I think it might be, whatever I'm trying to do, it usually doesn't end up being that. So I have to kind of respond to it. What does the painting or the drawing or the sculpture or whatever it is, what does it need? It's a song, it's lyrics. It needs something else here. I'm not sure what that thing is. I got to find it. And so you go on this process of trying to find it. So it's this constant back and forth of I'm confident about it, but now I'm questioning it. Now I'm questioning it. I think I have an answer. I'm going to try that answer, And then along with that, what you pointed out, there's a vulnerability, right? Because what I've just made, what I've just done. I mean, even those eggs, right?
You're making eggs for company now,
right? Sure, exactly. Yeah. When you're making food for other people, then it's a whole other thing, right? I mean, I might be able to swallow, whatever I made, but somebody else is going to have an opinion about what I made. And if we're respectful of each other, and they tell me what they think and. If it's great, good. If they've got some ideas how I could do better next time, maybe, I'll try that next time I invite them over. So
I go back to something you said. I'm not from here, but I got here as soon as I could. Talking with Tyler Loftus, he has this idea that ArtPrize, beyond the fact that Grand Rapids allows ArtPrize to exist, he thinks that it could have happened nowhere else. Art City USA is kind of their marching mantra this year.
Sure. Well, first of all, I just want to say Tyler is an amazing individual. Really brought a lot of energy and excitement and a perspective to ArtPrize that I've personally not seen. So I just want to tip my cap to Tyler. But yeah, specifically in terms of Grand Rapids, I mean, not being from here, having to learn, the culture, learn the people, learn what they value, what they think about. One of the things that I've noticed is this city really cares about people, and it really cares about what it makes. There's another city
back to the furniture industry.
Furniture industry, right? Yeah. And that's Kendall's founding. David Walcott Kendall was a furniture maker. Right. We still have some of his pieces in our collection today that are just amazing, handmade pieces of design of furniture. There's Beer City, right? I mean, I don't know. You talk to anybody who brews their own beer, they're pretty serious about it. Yeah. And just the same as the people who drink it, right. And their various opinions of it, right? So, you mentioned earlier some of the ways the city has changed. So again, coming here in 2009. That was right on the heels of the Great Recession. A lot of doubt around towns and cities, and were cities dying and all these kind of things. And when I moved here, I can tell you, this city, it was relentless in its pursuit of growth. There was never a time there were not cranes in the sky. There are still cranes in the sky today, right? There's only more and better since that time period. And ArtPrize has sort of grown along with that. So yes, that great expansion of the city, that great expansion of intellectual capital, of cultural and creative capital is something the city cares a lot about. And when you come and see the crowds at ArtPrize, it's really evident how much people care about that.
And it's so rooted in our history. Before we started taping this, I told you that I had talked to some who say, ArtPrize isn't possible without Festival of the Arts. Sure. Other people who say ArtPrize is impossible, and it goes back to the Calder. But now you bring up design from back in the furniture days, and maybe none of this happens without that history.
Sure.
And maybe that is still part of our genetic makeup of this city, that hardworking.
Sure. Well, all those things you just mentioned are all examples of how this city shows up and what it does and what it cares about, right? So to say that any one of those things was, ArtPrize wouldn't be possible without any one of them, they're all right.
Yeah.
Without any of those things, the city wouldn't be what it is. When you go around and you look at all of the amazing things, we're looking over at DeVos Place right now. It's an iconic shape, an iconic design. The identity of this city is interwoven with all of these people who had ideas, who had visions, who had something that they wanted to make and express, and the city embraced it. And that's the identity of our city, and who we are today is just a collection of all of those efforts over time.
Yeah. What do you make of this notion that ArtPrize isn't what it used to be, that ArtPrize has jumped the shark, some people say, and it just doesn't seem to have the same zip that it did?
Sure. Well, we did mention that earlier, and I would say what does, and I think about it this way. You mentioned Bob Dylan, right? I love music, even somebody like Dylan, huge catalog, all the things he made throughout his life. A lot of those are different iterations, the fact that when he picked up an electric guitar and people said, oh, that's it, Dylan's done. He's not, he's a traitor. He went electric, right? That didn't really, hurt his career. He kind of, right?
Did not seem to.
Right, sure. So, everybody loves to predict the end. We all love a tragedy, right?
Right.
But, there's something in that, though, that and I think it's inherent in what artists do and what designers do, but because they're looking ahead, they're looking at what can be, not what was, not what is, but what can be. And so every time artists get together and, you have events like ArtPrize and you say, well, what is it going to be this time? Of course, it's not going to be what it was. It can't be. And it's made up of all these different participants. The audience is different. The people are different. The city's different. All the variables that go into making it change every year.
Sure.
So every year it's got a different look, a different iteration. I'm sure, your audience out there listening might have, well, I really liked it this year. I like this one piece of artwork I remember, or this other thing. That's fantastic that you have that touch point, that you can say, that's the thing I really liked. And maybe the next year you didn't find that thing, but that doesn't mean that you won't find something even better the next year, So I think that's just the way that it goes. And I think that it's something that I am perhaps a little more comfortable with just as an artist, that everybody's a critic, and, I'll tell you this, little quick anecdote. When we moved here, a lot of people were questioning, ArtPrize and the value and all these sorts of things and what was it going to be. And my wife, who is from Central Pennsylvania, said, in the little town I'm from, we have the state fair. This is way cooler than the state fair. So, that puts it in perspective for me. Let's say, all the different iterations of ArtPrize, they're all fantastic. They're all what they were for that time in that place. And I got to say, the 16th ArtPrize coming up here in a couple of weeks is going to be something different yet again. So always something to see, always something to experience.
You sit on the steering committee, correct?
I do, correct.
Okay, give us the insider edge here. What are you really looking forward to this year?
Oh my, so many things. Well, I am a little biased because not only do I sit on the steering committee, but I also, as the dean of Kendall, I'm really excited about our exhibition called Landscape, apparently, and our curator Michelle Bozak, who's been really involved in the art scene in Grand Rapids and the region for decades. Fantastic person, great curator. She has really put together an interesting show that, on the one hand, it's about one of the most sort of approachable, some would say even banal aspects of art, which is the landscape, right? We all kind of have a concept of what that is, what we expect to see when we go to look at a landscape. And she's taken that idea and kind of turned it on its head and said, well, what can it be? What does that mean? What does it mean to think about and represent time and place? So she's got everything from really traditional kinds of work to artists working with technology, working with different computer algorithms and programs and things like that. So a really inclusive show. So that's pretty exciting. I think I don't want to steal Tyler's thunder. He's planned so many amazing things, but there's always the halftime show is amazing. And then of course the closing, the announcement of the awards, that's always electric. I get goosebumps every single time I go. And I think this year is going to be no different. So yeah, I also, I'll say I want to reserve, I don't want to make any predictions, cause as soon as you do,
that's right.
But, I will say this. I think this year is going to be an extremely memorable year. I think ArtPrize is going to have an energy and an excitement that is quite unique, and I'm really looking forward to it.
All right, we're going to hold you to that.
Please do, and you know where to find me.
I do know where to find you.
Of course.
All right, Stephen Halko. Thanks so much. For
thank you, Steve.
For this edition. Thanks for joining us for this episode of the official ArtPrize podcast. Make sure to download the ArtPrize app and cast your votes. Visit artprize.org for more information.